All right, everybody, Dallisa Hawking here, 5th generation psychic medium and CEO of Spirit and Spark. We've got a great show ahead of us today. I'm excited. I'm going to give you an overview of what we have coming energetically for the week ahead. But the big thing for today's show is Karen. Karen's going to jump on and join me. We're going to have a really fascinating conversation about Ouija boards. And is that even how you say it? Do you say it Ouija? Or do you pronounce it a different way? Karen has been featured on Gaia TV as well as, as my phone is talking to me. I think we're still in the Mercury retrograde shadow. So Karen's gonna jump on. We're gonna talk about Ouija boards, how she got started in all of it. Are they good? Are they evil? And you don't want to miss this. So if you are tuning in live, what I want you to do is start commenting on this feed and let me know what questions you have for Karen about the Ouija board, because we are about to get started. You don't want to miss this today. All right, beautiful. Yeah, Mercury retrograde, we're actually out of it now, but we are still in what you would consider a shadow period. So I would say for probably another few days, maybe even a week, we're going to be feeling the effects of Mercury being in retrograde, which means that it's all about revisiting, reviewing. Probably not the best time to sign any big contracts, make any major decisions. I would just kind of hang tight for, if you can, another week. So this is the energy for the week ahead. I did it for today through July 5th. So here we go. There's going to be issues that are going to be more on a micro detail level around your home life and things that you feel are going to be very personal to you this week. Things that have been happening this month of June around family and home life, you're going to have some revelations over this coming week. And you're going to be asked to deal with things that have been happening in June around home and around family. The themes for the week ahead are going to be about courage, action. There's going to be, yes, of course, if you've been watching me week after week, you know that some of these themes are very similar. Defiance this week, people around you feeling angry. I do feel there's going to be conflict and a need for perseverance. If you are a Spark Plug member of mine, your exclusive prediction video has been dropped in your member portal. And there are some wonky, funky energies leading up to the 4th of July weekend. So be very careful this weekend. You're going to be faced with your own issues and some hard work ahead for the week. There's going to be a bit of the stalemate and resistance energy. People are going to be feeling reckless and kind of expect that some people around you, you may feel like, oh my gosh, why are they doing that? Why are they saying this? Why are they being reckless? Why are they making that choice? Or you're going to feel like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go hog wild and live crazy. So know that that energy is there. Be very careful, especially if you're going to be drinking for the upcoming holiday weekend. If you're partying too hard, it just feels like there's going to be some opportunities for things to go haywire. So I would say maybe a quieter weekend. Don't get so crazy because you don't want things to work against you, okay? This is also going to be a week where you're going to need to bring alternative solutions to the table. So if you've had scenarios in front of you, pathways in front of you where you're like, God, I don't really know what to do, you're going to have to get creative this week. So if you can go into meditation, if you can take a walk, you can journal, what maybe you thought was going to be the solution ahead or the easy pathway you're going to take, I feel like there's going to be adjustments this week. So it's going to be one of those jolty kind of roller coaster weeks. But you can figure this out. We're all in it together. We're all going through the same collective energy, but it's going to feel like a stop-start kind of week. But the courage and the perseverance is what's going to help you through this week. Don't get pulled into people's anger and defiance, all right? I did write down that Leos and Virgos, if you are a Leo or a Virgo, this week actually feels very positive for you, where you're going to have likely feeling more loved, feeling like you're just being showered with more love, more attention. So depending on where you have Leo and Virgo in your astrological chart, your natal birth chart, you can see what parts of your life that love and attention is going to hit. Just a couple more points before I bring Karen on to talk about the Ouija board. So don't make hasty decisions this week. It's going to be more about a journey of self-discovery. Respect your own limits, accept your changes. You're going to likely feel nervous energy and perhaps an anxiety-driven or impatient energy as you're looking forward, okay? Use intuition and caution moving toward July 4th, as I mentioned a moment ago. So again, if you're a Spark Plug member, make sure you check out your member portal for all of the things I can't say on mainstream social media anymore. That is under your Dallisa's Prediction tab in your member portal. So let me tell you a little bit more about Karen, because I'm really excited. Talk about synchronicity. So I was watching Gaia TV with my dad. This is probably, we'll call it 3 weeks ago now. And we were watching a show and Karen was on. And she was talking about Ouija boards, and it was on George Norrie's show, I believe it was, Beyond Belief. And he was doing like a flashback clip. And I'm like, oh, she's so interesting. She's so fascinating, right? Well, a gentleman that I met, Patrick Keller, who was a guest on the Paranormal show that I was doing for Binions in Las Vegas, he invited me to be a guest on his podcast. And we were talking, and he said, oh, hey, you got to meet Karen. You'd love Karen. I'm like, oh, perfect. So Karen, I start emailing, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the Karen from Gaia TV. So I love how the universe works and brought Karen and I together. So let me just tell you a little bit about Karen, and then I'll bring her on. So Karen A. Dahlman is an officer and director of the Talking Board Historical Society, a paranormal researcher, and the author of several spiritual books, including The Spirits of Ouija, 4 Decades of Communication. As a leading world-renowned expert on the Ouija board, she has been using the board since 1973 with astounding results. So, I mean, this goes on and on. There's so much that she's been involved with. And as I mentioned, she's been on Gaia TV. She's also been on Coast to Coast for those of you that love listening to that radio show, as well as other programs, including The Unexplained. So I know I could just sit here. I'm like, I'm excited. So let me just bring her on. Hi, Karen.
Hey, Dallisa. Good morning. Good morning, everybody out there in the chat room. It's so wonderful to be here with you guys.
Yay, yay. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We already have some questions coming in, and so we'll get to those in just a moment. But is there anything else about your background that you want to mention? That, I mean, I could have just sat here and like read the whole thing. I'm so excited to talk to you.
You did great. I mean, you know what I love? You guys, I think it's really cool, this whole synchronistic thing. I love to talk about synchronicity and how we can open ourselves up to the possibilities of the universe. And when we start acknowledging and noticing these synchronistic things that happen, not coincidences, not fortuity, not good luck, not chance, not faith, synchronistic, you guys. And that's exactly what happened. I thought that was the coolest thing. I love stories like that. It's meant to be.
Oh, it's totally meant to be. And I mentioned to you when we were getting this program scheduled today, I used to play with my grandmother's Ouija board. Like the original one was like all the old packaging. I don't know when she got it, where she got it from, but I remember the box being really old, and that was 40 years ago. So who knows how long she had it for, but her house was extremely haunted. And it wasn't until years later that people started saying, oh, you shouldn't play with those, or portals, they open up bad energy. I'm like, oh my God, did we like make my grandmother's house haunted? So I'm so excited to have this conversation. So maybe we start off with like, how did you even get started with this?
Well, okay. So I was always fascinated with what goes on beyond the dimensions that we can see, because as a child, I came into this world actually having beings that I could talk to and, see, and everybody in my family said that there's nobody there, there's no, I said, yeah, there's somebody right here. Can't you see him? So I grew up starting that way. I mean, that's just how I was. And my mom said, you really shouldn't do that when you go to school, put that away. You guys, this is back in the, 70s, late 60s, early 70s. So it wasn't allowed. It wasn't really talked about. You were kind of crazy or cuckoo. So I just knew at an early age, you don't tell everybody about this. And so I tried to put away what they called my imaginary playmates, to only find out when I was introduced to the Ouija board in 1973 by two girlfriends down the street that, wow, I can make these contacts again. Although I thought the Ouija board was to only communicate with the dead, is what, I thought, because that's the spiritualist movement. When the board first came out in the late 1800s, they all used it to, seances and talk to the deceased people, our deceased loved ones, etc. But, I realized maybe I could talk to more. That was a little bit longer. That was a little bit later in life. But I knew it was like my lifeline. It was my lifeline back to what I knew when I came into this world. And so I was so enthusiastic and enthralled about it, because the two girls down the street had me talk to the deceased sister. I had no idea they had a deceased sister, but the coolest thing is this, Dallisa. There was one of the girls who was a twin at birth, and her twin died shortly after birth, and they were talking to their deceased sister who was growing up on the other side. Okay?
Oh my God, chills.
Right. Chills, exactly. And I'm a little kid going, the Ouija board, that's pretty cool, whatever. But I ran home and said, you know what? The dead really do exist, which I already kind of knew, but now I could say it because I had proof in my mind, and that they grow up and they have a life on the other side. That blew me out of the water, you guys. And by the way, this board right back here, that is my original 1973. It's actually a 1972 circa Parker Brothers board, but that's my original board. To this day, I still have it and I still use it. It's in my collection. I have a lot of boards, as you can imagine. But that right there in itself got me so excited about this odyssey that I've been on ever since, that there are other dimensions and beings do live and grow and can communicate with us, and it can be positive.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So before I ask you the next question, I need to get this out of the way. So is it Ouija or Ouija? Like and then is there a difference, or do you use both?
I'm so glad you asked, because today, okay, you can say Ouija if you want to. It's become really normal in our lexicon of language to say Ouija, because it's kind of like pop culture now. But I'm going to tell you the original way to say it was pronounced Ouija, and it doesn't mean we for French, yes, and ja for yes in German. It actually is a name that came across the board when the original founders founded it and developed this board in 1890. They asked the spirits that be, or whoever that was behind the board communicating, what would you like to be called? And it's spelled out Ouija. So that's how the name came about. It has no significant meaning other than the gal sitting there who had her fingers on the planchette. Her name was Helen Peters. She's one of the founders of the Ouija board, with a gentleman named Elijah Bond, who was the patent attorney. They were working the planchette at the moment when the Ouija spelled out. And they said, well, where'd you get that name from? And she goes, I don't know. But she had this locket on her neck, and she opened it up, and then there spelled the word Ouida or Ouina. We're not sure if it's Owina or Ouida. Now, these are facts, you guys. Part of the Talking Board Historical Society, we dig up and research this history. Cora Scott was a very famous psychic way back in the 1800s, and there was a relationship between her and Helen Peters at the planchette. They believe that possibly in that locket, the name was Owina, which was Cora Scott's spirit guide. And they think that's where that came from. Maybe it's like close to Ouija. So there you have it. A little bit of history a lot of people don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know that. Other than I've just always thought the board was really cool, because I think it's powerful. But I mean, honestly, for probably the last, 20 to 25 years, I have thought, oh my gosh, it's a bad thing. It's a bad tool. I shouldn't be using it. But here I am as a psychic medium, right? Like using tarot cards. I'll pull a card even at the end of this session for, this interview for everybody watching. And it's like, I'm using tools. So what part of my brain or, cultural decisions or theory or ideas behind it told me it was bad? And so I stopped using them. So let's talk about that a little bit, about it being good versus bad or evil, or it being a portal. So do you feel like it's just kind of like any other tool that a psychic medium would use, like a pendulum or cards, or do you kind of put it in the same category of a divination tool?
I do. I mean, it's nothing but a tool. So here we go. I have my little electronic device I'll use for EVPs and for recording stuff. I mean, you guys, this is no different than that. It's just, new technology, old technology. I'm old school, so I like the, stuff that doesn't have a battery, and you're not going to worry about putting a new battery in it. It really works. But let me say this, you guys, the whole thing behind tools, the tools don't do the work. We do the work. Anybody could pick up a deck of cards, and I love tarot cards and oracle cards, and I use them a lot as well, you guys. Anybody could pick those up, but if you don't understand how to bring in the energies yourself and interpret that, it's like you're scrying off of them. I like the term scrying. You're using all these tools to scry off. Even this records things, but yet is it because it picks up stuff, or is it because you are a magnet for these energies to come through? And so that's how I look at it. The tool has no power, you guys. It's a neutral device. It is either cardboard, compressed particle board. I have a real wooden one back here. That's from 1910. You guys, everything's reversed on me, so I'm like, which way am I going? Okay, and I've got some. These are compressed particle boards, and I've got some other ones that are more cardboard. So listen, they're made out of. That's all they are, neutral stuff. There's no witches or demons or warlocks or any kind of bad energy in them. What happens is we ourselves project our energies out there, and that's what we're going to get back. I just so happen to love this tool and very good at using it to bring in the energies, one form. So yes, Dallisa, it's the same as any other device or tool you would use to do this kind of work of reaching into the unseen dimensions.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So let's say you're sitting at the table and you've got your board out, because now I'm like, oh, I want to go get one now, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, look at me.
Yeah. But if you're sitting at the table, like, I know my energy, I can clear my energy. I know what I'm really attracting in. I know how to set up the energetic, boundaries and parameters. But let's say I was like, hey, let me grab a couple friends. We're just going to sit down at the table. If we're all coming together as, let's say, 4 collective energies with the board, then if one of those people out of the 4, this is just a hypothetical, if they're not doing their own energy work, energy healing, maybe their vibration is a lot lower, do you find that would affect how the board would work?
You bring up a really good point, because absolutely, yes. Again, we're all doing it. So let's say you have 4 people that come into the room, as you mentioned, hypothetically, and I've had these kind of experiences where they come in the room and so you want all 4 people to have their fingers on the planchette. And so the intention is all 4 of us are going to shepherd in this energy and allow it to work, right? So then you got an influx, an influence of all 4 energies. So now the message is going to be, number one, it's going to be more general for all 4, not so specific if it's for 1 or 2 people. And then also what's going to happen is it's going to be affected by the filters, I like to call it, or viewpoints, belief systems of the 4 people sitting there. So then it gets watered down. So yes, that's one aspect of it. So you're affected by everybody that's in the room when you're doing this work. What I try to do is keep it where it's myself and a partner only, because I really like it to be really honed in and fine-tuned. And the people I work with all the time when I do my sessions, or seances, you can call them, or open message circles, I like to call them, or just even on my channel when I bring in messages from the guides that I talk to on the board. It's like I like it when it's one person I've worked with a lot, because all of a sudden our energy's already gelled together. So it's like we come together, build this intent, and the energy can come through that intent. That's what it is. It's not the board. The board is just an excuse to spell it out, get the messages there. But, we can do this without the board. So I'm really careful about that. I say if anybody uses this tool, really look at what you're harboring within. That's critical, you guys. It's what makes this good or bad. If we go back to that good or bad statement, I hate that, but there's, spectrum of gray. But what we end up getting is what we believe. What we believe is what we receive on this board. It's what we conceive, and then what we receive. So it's like this whole give and take thing. So you've really got to look at what you're harboring within, what you bring to the session, and is it neutrality or is it fear? I'm going to go extremes. Is it excitement or fear? And that's going to create the situation, and you're going to attract those type of energies to you. Or here we go, where you're going to perceive the messages coming through in that manner. Thus, you have a projection to have negative messages come through. There's a, who does what? Is the chicken or the egg first? I have to say, you can't remove the person who uses the board, away from the board. You have to look at what they bring to the board when you do this work.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I have so many questions that are coming to mind.
I know what happens when we start doing these conversations. It opens up a whole Pandora's box in a positive way of things, because I remember, you guys, I've been using this tool 48 years now. 48 years in July. I hit my 48th year. So I use this regularly, and I write books about this. And this is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. So yeah, it opens up a whole lot of stuff to talk about, for sure.
I know, you kind of wonder, maybe you've even asked the board this. I wonder, sitting here listening to your story, if you had a past life where you used this, or you were one of the original users, of the board back when it came out. I think you said it was.
Well, I would love to say I was Miss Helen Peters, and I got to tell you, I'm not. I did speak for her at we put in a wonderful gravestone for her. She had no gravestone; it was an unmarked grave, and it's in the cemetery of Colorado, Fairmont Cemetery there. And this is what we do as the Talking Board Historical Society. We educate people about the history and the facts behind the people who created and celebrated and used this tool and collect this tool. And she was one of the ones of the original founders. And so she had no gravestone. We gave her one, and she has this beautiful monument. Now she's part of a walking tour of famous women who are buried in that cemetery. So it's really, really cool.
Oh my gosh, I have chills.
I know. So no, I'm going to tell you, I was not her. I did speak on her behalf at the event. I was going to tell you that. I'm not one of the founders. I don't feel that, but I'll tell you what, I've had many lives working with the mysterious nature of things. As a shaman, as a priestess, temple Devadasi. I've done a lot of work throughout my many lives, working with this type of modality of being able to read the unseen dimensions and traverse them.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of the, I would even call it a misconception from what I've heard from you so far, that you can really, we've thought, just talk to people that have passed away through the board. But correct me if I'm wrong, you've used them for paranormal investigations, but you've also used the boards to communicate with other kinds of beings. So can you talk to us about the expanded use of the board?
That's great, because when I did the board, you guys, through 1986, so it was 13 years when I thought, well, you just talk to the dead people. Okay, that's fun. I mean, it was really cool. I was learning all kinds of things about the afterlife, and it just, I read about it in this book, The Spirits of Ouija. All my odysseys in there for 40 years is in there. But what I started realizing was, well, why couldn't I communicate maybe with angels or guides? So then what I did is I did this experiment. This is where it started, you guys. I had just graduated with my master's degree. I was a psychotherapist, already starting to practice at a hospital. I met some other people that were clinicians or teachers, and they were like really fascinated with my thoughts about, could we use the Ouija board to talk to our higher selves? Okay, so what I'm talking about is that part of us that is our greatest self within, but also bigger than we are and connected back to the divine. I thought, why not? So we started seriously talking to our higher selves. We did this, I call it an experiment, for about 4 years. We most exclusively spoke to our higher selves. And that made it more, for one of the participants, he felt a little more safer, if you want to call it that, to do it that way. And I thought, okay, it doesn't matter. We're going to go into the unseen dimensions. This is how we're going to do it. We had such phenomenal conversations with our higher selves, to the fact that our higher selves, my higher self might be giving this person's advice, and their higher self might be giving me advice, or the higher selves would communicate. This is all through the board, you guys. And then what happened, the funny thing happened, and I'll say funny because it was like shocking, interesting, and funny. While we're doing this experiment, about the third, fourth year, an extraterrestrial came through. Well, he identified himself as an extraterrestrial. And he said, I am from the planet Maldek. No, okay, let me give you a time frame. This is like early 90s. No, excuse me, 89. It was 89, 90, 91, 92. We were doing this, okay? There was no internet to go, search this stuff up. There was very limited dial-up with, I think, AOL at the time. I had the library. I was like, I was like beyond, listen, the things I talk about, this is beyond my own belief system. Oh, we're talking to this alien. They're from Maldek. They blew up the planet, blew up Mars. They ended up landing here. Tell me all the stuff that they're now talking about. I heard this stuff in like 1990. Okay. So I just kind of filed that away. And the next thing I knew, the angels started coming through. And then we all got to meet our angel and talk to her and meet the whole echelon of angels. And then from the angels, one day, and this just blew me away, guys, and it makes me emotional sometimes when I talk about it. I was talking to my angel with one of my board partners, and we're just having a great conversation about things. And she says, well, Karen, you're not going to believe this. There's somebody here who wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking, well, okay, bring them on. You know, I'm talking to all kinds of different beings and a lot of course, deceased people. And she goes, no, it's different. I said, okay. So the planchette actually slows down and goes a different direction. And it's going a different direction. And all of a sudden it spells out, Hermes cat, I love you. Now, I had a big fat pumpkin cat, orange cat, very much alive, sitting in a rocking chair right there. You'd love to sit in a rocking chair and watch me use the Ouija board. By the way, animals love this energy. Sitting there looking at me, and I said, are you kidding me? She goes, no, he wanted to let you know that he loves you. I'm like, now this was 1994, you guys. I was like, what? You know, it's emotional because that's when I learned that you can actually communicate with things that are alive, sentient consciousness beings that are alive, such as the animals. And so I said, well, how does this work? I mean, meow, meow, I'm going to translate. She goes, pretty much. If any of you out there do animal communication, which I have done in the past, and I've talked to a lot of animals on the board, and I can talk to animals without the board too. And a lot of you guys out there can. You know, they come to you in emotions, they come to you in pictures, they come to you in feelings, sensations, scenes. So she said, we get that from the animals, and what we do is interpret it for them and put it in the best words we can. We take the vibration, which is a feeling, and we interpret it for them. So yes, we are interpreting meow, 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 look at this picture kind of thing. And so she goes, he wanted you to know that he loves you, he's here, he's very much aware, and he wanted you to know you could talk to animals. And I said, wow. So he's my cat that got me on this odyssey of talking to animals. And one of my cats actually wrote a book, which will be coming out soon. This is a cat that's actually, he wrote it when he was alive, but he finished it when he was dead. Okay. There's a whole story to that. And that'll be in the book. But you guys, what I learned from that experience, and I've been doing it ever since, is that you're not limited. You're only limited by your own perceptions, your own filters. You're not limited to the possibilities of consciousness, sentience, and communication, and a desire for connection with this that's out there. That's what I want everybody to understand from this. If you don't believe in Ouija boards, that's not a problem. Without the board, there is so much more great possibilities out there as long as you're open to it. And if you keep positive about it, you'll pull in that positive energy, and your communications and connections are galore. Since then, I've gone on and on to so many different things, and I talk about them on my YouTube channel. I talk about them in my books. It's beyond ridiculous how far we've gone with this tool.
Oh my gosh. I think you probably just made a whole bunch of people's day with that story with the animals and how we can receive messages from them. Mm-hmm. We get asked a lot about, can you communicate with animals, and how do you do that? And you just gave us a really clear explanation of how that works and how that
Dallisa,
happens.
you can also communicate with trees, with plants,
yep.
Anything with an awareness about it. It doesn't have to be an English language or some kind of vocabulary. Again, it comes through pictures and feelings. And then there's a whole group of beings in the other dimensions that will help translate what they're trying to tell you. So this goes on, and people say, God, I hug a tree. I love trees. They make me feel so good, because they're communicating with you in a wavelength, the frequency, and you're feeling that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can interpret that. Sometimes you might hear a word or a thought or get a sensation. That's their form of communication. So it just goes on and on.
Yeah. Do you have a story or something that comes to mind about using it in a paranormal investigation, or going into a site and communicating with somebody who is either stationed at that location or passing through, or because I know there are folks watching who feel a presence in their home, or they've had even a portal that's been open in their home. How do you use the board to communicate in that kind of situation?
Well, I've done a lot of those. And by the way, spirit is non-local. I know you know this, Dallisa, so you can tap into spirit anywhere. So what happened was I was invited to one of those really famous homes for most brutal murder probably ever, the Charles Manson murders up there on Cielo Drive. So down the street, 3 doors down, is a gentleman who owns a house, and his house has become pretty much the transient place that's where these spirits have gone to. And there definitely is an energy vortex there. It's an opening, and I've witnessed this and felt it. So I took one of my other psychic friends who used to be one of my board partners. We worked together for a long time. She is now in spirit, and she's communicating to me from the other side, but she went with me to this investigation. But before we went there, we decided to tap into the energy there. And sure enough, energy was already coming through. We were already getting messages from different beings that were there. So we go there, and I said, I don't want to hear any story. I don't want to hear where this energy portal is. I know there's one here. He's like, yep. I go, don't tell me. I go, let us just walk around, and we're just going to get taking our own impressions. So we walked around, went down to the deepest floor, walked all the floors. He had like 4 stories. I think it's 4 stories. Went to the lowest floor. The dog was following us until that floor. He wouldn't go. The dog would not go down there. So we go down there, and we both felt nauseous. My friend says right here, and she goes, I can't even stand here. It's making me very emotional. And when I walked up to it, I know exactly the spot where it's the energy. There's definitely an opening, a vortex, a portal, if you will. I like to call it a vortex or a confluence of energies, because all kinds of things can really come through. It's like different streams running into each other, and then you get this whirlpool thing. And that's what's happening there. So I said, here we go. We're going to sit down here and get a message. So the message, I wanted to find out what was going on, with some of the victims of this Manson thing, because he swears that some of them are still at his house. So we sat down, and sure enough, Jay Sebring came through immediately. Sharon Tate came through. Their souls are still there. There was a baby involved, and that she was pregnant, and the baby was released. The baby went on, and so did the Folger's daughter and her boyfriend. They moved on, but the other boy that was there was Stephen Parents. Now, I didn't even know the guy's name. There was a guy who happened to be at that murder, who was just like driving up. He's like the pool boy's friend or something, and was just there happenstance. They say in the beginning it was synchronicity, but he got shot, cold dead right there. And so he died. He said, nobody remembers me. That was his message. He said, nobody remembers me. It's all about the famous people. I want people to know I was here. I had a life. I matter too. And it was really sad, but I'll tell you, I won't tell you the whole story, because it goes into some really secretive stuff that I later presented to the homeowner. And he knew this, but the spirit, he doesn't want to release them. Okay. I'll just say that. But anyway, when we first sat down at the board, this is what kind of freaked my partner out. She wasn't used to this. She'd been using the board about maybe 6 years with me at that time, but she was really good, very developed psychically. We heard belabored breathing, like, just belabored. And I can tell you what that was now. That was them trying to survive at the time when they were, getting, murdered, all the stuff that was going on. But they came with belabored breathing. And then after that happened, that brought them in. It was like the memory that brought them in. They were able to communicate with us, and they weren't in pain, and they weren't like upset. They just said, we have a story to tell. We want it to be heard. Please tell so-and-so, the name of the man who owns the house. I won't say his name. Please tell so-and-so, this is our story. And when I did tell him, he said, I know, but I don't, I kind of like him here. And so it's really not up to us. It's really up to them. I told them, I said, if you ever want to leave, it's up to you. You can go. They said, no, not until we tell the truth. There's a story. By the way, I did put it in this book that talks about what actually the story is and what the secret is. But I feel like if I do this work, any kind of my reading work I do, it's my task and my ethics to tell you the truth, to tell you maybe not what you want to hear, but that you're supposed to hear, what the energy is telling you, the vibrations reading. So that's how I feel about this. But that's an example of one, but I've done many of these kinds of investigations. I don't need to be in like I said, a haunted place or a place that has activity to do this work. I could be right here in my house. This is my upstairs in my office. I could be right here doing this work and still tap into the energy, or just bring in the energy, somebody who needs to communicate. So that's just common, because as again, spirit's non-local. It's faster than the speed of sound or the light waves. That's how it is. It's like light waves. It moves so fast, so quickly, that you could be communicating where I'm sitting right here in Arizona with over in the UK across the pond in matters of seconds. And by the way, guys, I have to say this, because I talked about talking to animals that are alive. You can also talk to people's higher selves that are alive if they choose to allow you to. I've done that many times. And I mentioned that experiment we did, but I've done readings where I've been able to tap into people's higher selves to help them. So it's just amazing what you can do. And again, this is not the board. I'm just the user. It's really our own abilities. We're fine-tuning and honing. And this becomes the permission slip, the reason, the excuse, the vessel, the channel to bring it through the messages.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I agree. I am getting ready to start my psychic development series of classes tomorrow for my Spark Plug members. And it's all about having them align with their own energy first, and then they'll be able to share and connect with other people. But I want them to feel that they are that conduit and they can do that. So we're going to start there. So I completely agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. So we had a question come in that is
wonderful.
One that I was thinking about asking you as well. So Spiritual Awakening asks, does the energy stay connected forever from the board? And one of the questions I wanted to explore with you today is it important to, close the board or have some kind of ritual where you're clearing and cleansing the energy? So what are your thoughts of having it be a start and a finish when using the board, and do you disconnect that energy?
Well, just the fact that you said that, also Spiritual Awakening, you're asking this, you guys are quite developed in your own work, I can tell, because this is how I treat the board work. It's no different than when I do my private readings for people, or I'm just picking up on energies or feeling things. It's like there's a start and there's a finish. I'm a human being having a human experience. Yes, I'm spiritual too, but there's a time and place for this work. There's a time and place to be human in the third dimension. The guides have said to me, and I'll get into it to answer your question, but the guides have said it's just as important to be a human, and don't neglect the fact that you are human. You're here to be human, and you chose this being spiritual. That's easy. They said what you're doing is hard, and you chose to come here, so don't neglect that and be in that. So that's what I want to say. You don't want to live in the realm of spirit, airy fairy, and not grounded. So I'm really clear when I do this work. There's a beginning, there's an opening, there's a middle, and then there's an end. And how that looks changes with what tool, or if I'm using myself, as I told Dallisa earlier, I'm the walking Ouija now. As myself as a barometer or tool, that's how I work. And as a therapist, you guys, my background is as a therapist. When people come to my therapy session, hello, how are you? Sit down, start the session. We have our discourse. Then we end it. Okay, this is your homework, and that's it. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week. Whatever it is. But you do that. Any kind of person that's doing shaman work, journeying work, hypnosis, life coaching, teaching courses, doing spirit readings, whatever, you have to have a beginning and ending. So what I like to tell people when you do any kind of work, and this relates to the boards, but it can relate to anything. I do it with when I do tarot, or I do oracle readings, or I Ching, or runes, or dowsing rods, etc. I do like a prayer or an intention. So I try to state it to get the energy to a certain level, to get myself to that vibration and everybody in that room. So I state a prayer, and it's also setting in that my intentions. This is my opening, what I hope to accomplish during that session. Okay. Then I have my session, and throughout the session, I'm always saying thank you. I'm always giving gratitude. I'm always appreciating. Appreciation and gratitude goes a long ways, even in the realms of the other dimensions, by the way. And because it's a vibration, and that vibration attracts that higher vibration. It's not that they're going, oh, she's saying thank you, I'm going to come. It's because you're raising your vibration. So does joy. Joy does that. Happiness, laughter does that too. That's my middle part. The ending is I always say goodbye, because even like with today, I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. I'm not just going to go, I'm out of here, click, not say anything. I'm going to say goodbye to Dallisa. I'm going to say goodbye to all you guys here. That's important. That's part of it's etiquette. It's decorum. It's the way you treat other beings, other energies. So you say goodbye. Now people say you've got to say goodbye or a board's not closed. Well, I close the board because I close myself. Remember, it's not the board, you guys. I close myself. So part of my ritual is saying goodbye, putting the board away. I have a planchette. It's not this planchette. It's in a box sitting right over here that I put my real planchette that I use all the time from 1973, and I put it back in the box. It's just a ritual I developed, and everybody finds their own ways of doing that. It might be blowing out the candles, might be stepping away from the table where you're working or the floor. It's just now I'm going to be human again. And so that allows me to shut down those energies, because I don't want to be receiving 24/7 messages. And so there's so much more to say about that, but I'm just going to answer the question, how you bring it to this kind of work and sessions that you do.
Yeah, and it's perfect. I mean, so even right here on my side, I have my tarot cards, and I know that when I'm done, they go back in there, and I close the box and I put it off to the side.
I do the same thing. I have a little tray, and they go back in these bags or these boxes, and it's wonderful. And I have the stone I always use, and it goes back in its box. It's fantastic. So you create your own ritual around this. And ritual has to have meaning for you. People say, what do you do? Well, I do share it in my books, but I tell people, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. What's working for you right now, even in your own religions, your theosophies, philosophies, the way you go about life, the way you do any kind of work, any way you want to work with the energies, bring that into this. There are no rules to the board. I know people say, oh, there's rules. Can I go? go to my YouTube channel and watch all these rules that my friend Gene Orlando and I just talked about. There are no rules. There's certain suggestions and ideas to get this tool to work and to use it. But by all means, bring your own ideas and your own ways of working with the energies, because that's truly is what's going to happen. You're going to connect the energies the best way you can. And thus, that's going to help this thing, the planchette indicator, move.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. Therese asks, what's the difference between a Ouija board and a pendulum board? Because I know I've seen those mats. Yep. And when I had my physical shop in Las Vegas, we would sell them. And so people could take the pendulum over the mat and ask a question, and it would swing, a certain direction of yes, no, maybe, ask again later, kind of like a magic 8-ball. Is there a difference, or what would be a key difference, do you think, between the Ouija board and a pendulum mat or a pendulum board?
Well, sometimes you can use them for both. Okay, so I have this board called the Ouija board. I don't have it with me. It's in my collection. And it actually, here's another one I have. I'll show you this. It looks kind of like this, but it's a big board, like a Ouija board. Yeah. This right here is actually Ask the Universal Channel board. It comes with this cute little, and it's plastic. And you can put, and it wipes off real nicely. But anyway, the nice thing about this is you can use this as a planchette. And I'm pushing it, you guys. I'm pushing it just demonstrate, okay? But you can use a pendulum over it too. So you can hold your pendulum here, and so it works as both, you guys. Here I'll show you this. Here's my mouse pad. You can use a pendulum with this, and this actually works, you guys. I've used it before with smaller planchettes or my big planchette, or with something like this. This will actually work. It's just a mouse pad. So the thing is this, Therese, there is not much of a difference, because if you have a pendulum board such as this, you can use it with a pendulum or a planchette. What I like about I use pendulums too, but just for maybe clarification, yes, no answers, because it's tedious to get to spell out, right? So that's why I like the Ouija board, or in this case, this is actually called a spirit board or talking board, because I get it. It spells, you guys. The whole idea of a talking board is for it to talk, to spell. So I always tell people, don't ask just yes, no questions. Get used to ask questions that are open-ended they can answer. So I like both devices, but this one will give me a lot more information. Like if you guys see me do my work, there'll be pages and pages before the messages stop. And it's like A, P, Q, B, D. I mean, that's slow, and you can just download it. And kind of where I am now when I'm channeling, I'm just downloading. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to you. But when you want to learn a tool, you really wanted to learn it to spell first. So yeah, pendulum boards are great too. So use them both. Pendulums are limited though, yes, no, which is fine, but that's a great place to start for sure.
I love it. Natalie was asking about the name of your book that you wrote. And it looks like Karen commented with the Spirits of Ouija, 4 decades of communication. Is that the book that you would have people start reading?
Yeah, if you want to start with the Ouija board, for sure. I wrote 3 books, but this book is the one that is the Odyssey. This is the one that tells you the tips and do's and don'ts, and how to work yourself through this energy. I call it the dead zone, and it gives you my Odyssey, working through that, and some of the tips of how to get beyond that, and then getting into the higher self. And I do talk about the animal communication in here and the angel communication. I don't get into the extraterrestrials. When I wrote this book, the guide said, we had to negotiate it. They said, okay, the guides who I talked to on the board, and the guides are in this book. You'll hear all about the guides. The guide said, well, you're going to lose them if you throw out the ET word. So this was in 2000. I'm going to go 8. I don't know what age I am. Okay. 2013, this book came out. Okay. And they said, no, don't go ET yet. I said, okay. Well, then I said, will you give me animal communication? They said, we'll give you animal communication. No ETs. So the animal communication is in there. Both those cats are now deceased. And as I said, one of those cats wrote a book, and it's going to be coming out later this year. The other thing is, the other book I wrote is this. Well, this is more of an advanced one. I wouldn't read this until you read this, because this book actually takes you into how you become the walking Ouija board. But I really think when you learn any kind of new activity or device, or it could be a sport, you really need to learn the fundamentals. And this book gives you everything to have incredible sessions. Then when you get into this, you start reaching out into the other characters I've talked about, other levels of consciousness, and you really have to do a deep dive into yourself and clean up your inner residue. And it's all about transforming your lead into gold in your life. The other book I wrote too, this is not at all, why I'm bringing it up is there's nothing at all about Ouija in here. I wrote this back in 1997. Wasn't published in 2012 though, but this book, the guides wrote this book with me. They were my editors. They gave me ideas. They said, come back, write a chapter, come back, we're going to read it. Okay, we need you to change this, add this, put this in there. And they helped co-write this book. And this book, I would say they probably wrote maybe 75% of it because a lot of it was channeled that I wrote. So, but this one I couldn't talk at all about. They said, don't bring Ouija at all. I was a practicing therapist at the time and it just wouldn't have gone over too well. But these are all out, but I do recommend the Spirits of Ouija. Thank you, Karen S., for putting that on there for me. It's true. That's where you want to start if you're really interested in using this tool.
Okay, beautiful. I'm going to shuffle my cards. I always pull one card at the end of the video for everybody watching to say what our collective message is. But while I'm shuffling, I'm going to put you on the spot. Obviously, I want you to tell people what your YouTube channel is, where they can find you. But I would also love to know your thoughts on what you think is coming energetically. What do you think we're in for? So I'll just start shuffling, and yeah, go ahead and tell us how people can connect.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and by the way, I do readings all the time, and I'm getting downloads of information now, you guys, about what's going on, even globally and stuff. Okay, so you can find me at Karen A. Dahlman, and I think my name's on here. So make sure you put the A in there. Under YouTube, under my website, KarenADahlman.com. Karen A. Dolman on YouTube, or you can look me up under Creative Visions Publications. That's my publishing house, and also that's the same to YouTube. YouTube, I think I have 220, I don't know, 215 videos or something, where I interviewed other people too who work with the unseen dimensions, really interesting people. And then I do a lot of shows on there where we actually use the board, show you how we use it, and bring through messages. We've done a lot of live sessions. My work now, I have been really encouraged by the guides to work off the board. So a lot of my work now is more channeling, and I'm doing a lot of direct readings. If you want to learn about my readings, go to my website. I have a little special where I do these mini readings, very affordable. And if you're interested in that, I'm
gonna sign up.
Yay! So, you want to go first with what's coming up, or you want me to go first?
You can go first, and then I'll read this, and we'll close it out.
Okay. All right. So what I see coming up right now is when I'm talking right now, they're starting to want to come through. So they may fully come through. I feel them here when I say hit the guides. They don't enter my body, I feel their messages and I allow it to flow out. So it's like, it's a combination. I want to be clear that nothing's entering my body. I'm not a trance medium. I don't check out, but they start coming in and I feel them here, the guides, and they become a part of when I'm asked questions like this, because I rely on them to help me bring in the energies and to read the vibration. So what they want me to tell you, okay, thank you. Okay, they're saying what's happening now is that we're moving into a time of great disclosure, as you guys already know, but what's happening more so is you're going to see the underbelly exposed in many arenas, not just in the world theater, but in your own personal lives. So be prepared for some shocking information to come to you, whether it's somebody's cheating on somebody, or it's the job is not right for you anymore. All of a sudden you get asked to move, you're going somewhere. These energies are going to continue through the end of this year and into the beginning of the year. What I see for this week is that there's some surprises coming, and I feel like it's going to be surprises that have to do with a little bit larger than ourselves. It's a bigger, we're part of this bigger, I'm going to call it a theater again, because we all really are just actors on a stage in this, and when we have our lives, but this greater theater, and you're going to go, wait a second, that's reality. I didn't believe that way. So watch your beliefs and watch what you're thinking, what you see before you is true, and you're going to see that it really isn't. It's going to be flipped on you. So pay attention. And this is actually, I want to say it's really a positive thing, because in order for us to evolve as humanity, as a type of species, and actually all the trees, everything, they're all telling me they're all evolving right now because of the energies. It's like, to evolve, you have to see truth. You have to be willing to accept it too and allow it. So that's what I see coming up for you guys and all of us.
Oh my gosh, I've been saying the same thing, and yeah, because we're looking at that energy, that frequency. Yeah, and as I mentioned at the start of the video, they kept showing me 4th of July, and that there was going to be something right around the 4th of July that was going to be massive. And I have chills even as I say this, and I recognize it's later this week. And so I've just told people and reminded them, you've got it within you. You have your intuition. Trust the messages you're getting. If you feel like I shouldn't go there, I shouldn't do this, trust what is coming forward. Don't live in a frequency of fear, but really meditate and do your journaling and do your self-care so that you are at a frequency where you can have those intuitive hits and those synchronicities that are going to help you navigate this a little bit more smoothly.
Perfect. I'm traveling on that day, the 4th. I thought, no, but the truth is this, you live your lives,
Yep.
and I love what you said, Dallisa. Just, don't congregate into that fear. Even when you see things happen, you don't have to get sucked up in it. Yes, accept it. Don't put your head in the sand, but look at it, accept it, and say, okay, all right, I can still move forward, because life does move forward and you have to move forward. So just see how you can empower yourself through these changes. And you guys, it's not over. We're going to see a lot of things coming up, okay, that we're not going to like, because we're human, and that's natural. And it pulls on our, weighs on our heartstrings, but it's part of the evolution, again, of our species and our consciousness. We are evolving quickly. And I have no doubt that's why I'm able to talk to all these different beings. And I'm writing a book about that too, which will be out soon, of all these different beings of consciousness, because everything wants to come together and communicate. We are all connected. That's what's happening, you guys. And we're seeing it before our eyes.
Yeah, I love that so much. Okay, so I'm going to share the card that we all got for today, and let's see how it applies for the week ahead. I love these cards. They're by Sharon Jeffers, and they're called Cards of Destiny. And they're based off of a standard deck of playing cards and the energy of them. So we got the Queen of Spades. It says, if you're putting others before yourself for any reason, known or unknown to you, it's time to change the direction of how you are using your energy and your personal power. This queen is wearing the crown of self-mastery, and she wants to share it with you. She wants you to know that you have the power to create exactly what you want. The secret to manifestation lies in your innocence. Your innocence invites you to seriously acknowledge what you truly desire, and with all of your being, know that you can have that exactly. This is the magic of the Queen of Spades. She has the power to manifest anything, and so do you. Once you embrace your truest desires and say, yes, I can have that, they will manifest. Now is the time for that. The magic will be found in humility and innocence.
Nice.
Beautiful card for what we talked about today, and how we are the conduit, we are the energy, and it all starts and ends with us. And
we have free will.
Beautiful. So again,
Yep.
Absolutely. We could have a whole other conversation. I want to meet up with you in person and do some fun project.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
It would be great. So Karen A. Dahlman, make sure you find her on YouTube as well as online. And as she mentioned, she does have some affordable session options on there. So take a look. And Karen, thank you so much for being a part of today's show.
Well, thank you so much. And this is the point now, you guys, where I say goodbye, because we're coming to an end. And that's, decorum. That's etiquette, what we do. So I want to say goodbye to all you guys. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we didn't get through all your comments. I appreciate you guys joining us and participating. And it was just such a delight to be here with you, Dallisa. Thank you again so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Yes, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.